Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Utilizing Guest Data to Win the Direct Customer. My name is Jason Emanis. I will be your host, and I am joined by our good friend, Mr. B, Brandon Berkman, who will be our technical guide, keeping us out of the ditch. Hello, Mr. B.
Hello.
Mr. B, are we going to have Q&A today?
We are going to have Q&A. So if you're just now joining us, welcome. At the bottom of your screen, you should have a button that says Q&A. You click that, a little box will appear, and you can type any questions you have going through the presentation. And at the end of the presentation, we'll get to the questions, and we'll try to answer them all. All right?
Very good. All right, we've got a ton to cover, so let's get down to business. Let me introduce our guests. First up, Nicole Adair, Corporate Director of Revenue Management with SHR. Nicole's current focus at SHR is to oversee operations for revenue management for hire department. In this role, she leads a team of experienced directors of revenue management serving SHR client hotels by improving and advancing their revenue generation and distribution strategies. As a certified revenue management executive, she has extensive experience in directing connectivity and channel interfacing initiatives for multiple CRS, PMS, and channel management platforms. Hello, Nicole.
Hello, Jason. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Next up, Jason Price, EVP HEBS Digital, a next guest company. As Executive Vice President, Jason's expertise crosses all hospitality business models from flag hotels to independent properties, resorts, and casinos. With deep industry knowledge and marketplace needs, he has helped pioneer new products and hospitality web marketing solutions. He is a frequent guest speaker at conferences and trade groups, plus advises graduate-level research projects for NYU School of Professional Studies, Preston Robert Tisch Center for Hospitality and Tourism. Welcome, Jason.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
All right. Thank you both for joining us. Here's our agenda. Better understand where guest data comes from, know how to make your guest communications more meaningful, use practical methods, better budget. We're going to hit all this. Let's get going. Oh, polling question. Polling question. What is your current comfort level dealing with guest data? What do you think the percentages are going to be, Mr. B?
I'm willing to bet, in my experience, it's going to be pretty even.
They're not all pros.
I'm sure we've got some pros in the audience, but I bet you we're going to have a pretty even distribution.
All right, as we tally up.
Give it about 10 more seconds. Waiting for people to
We'll just see. Oh, yeah, you're right. Look at that. Well, so let's go ahead and give out what we have.
All right. Share the results.
Mostly comfortable, 44%. We deal with it when we have to, 33%. And then we got some outliers.
Look at that nice bell curve.
Perfect. All right. Introduction on data. Nicole.
All right. Well, hello again, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. For the next 25 minutes or so, we are going to be talking all about data. And more specifically, we're going to be taking a look at two different data sets, which really should be working hand in hand to inform your revenue and marketing strategies at your hotel. So when a traveler is searching for and planning a trip online, and then when they subsequently, hopefully, make that booking at your hotel, they're generating enormous amounts of data that's being collected both by your hotel and a number of outside companies that are constantly monitoring and tagging browsing behavior, demographics, etc. So between your reservations data and your guest data, you already have so much at your fingertips to inform your rate, your distribution, and your targeted marketing strategies. So what do we mean by leveling the playing field from the title? Simply what we're trying to focus on or say is that it's really easy to feel lost amongst all the big data crunching and marketing budgets of the major brands and channels. So Jason and I really want to help you focus on using what you already have to help optimize your business mix and make sure you're getting the most for your marketing budget. So, we already have our fun fact up. Here's a quick fun fact. Yeah, it's the number with lots of zeros. So whenever you visit a website, make a purchase, complete a form, write a review, et cetera, you are generating data that's being collected either anonymously or identified and tagged to you. Just about everything you do online is being captured and profiled by companies. So what is 2.5 quintillion? That is the number of bytes of data that are added to the global data pool every single day.
Great, thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. So why does data matter? It matters because the cost to advertise is expensive, and we all operate on limited budgets. Therefore, every digital marketing dollar matters. The more we know about the intended audience, the more relevant and targeted can be the communications. And of course, the more relevant and targeted the communications, the more likely customers will buy from you. So, as you see the stats here, according to a 2018 report by Maripost, a leader in data management for the Fortune 500, 61% of consumers are more likely to buy from companies delivering customized content. Yet, 76% of chief marketing officers surveyed say that their data is too siloed to provide any meaningful revenue opportunities.
All right. So where does all this data come from for your hotel? Enterprise level solutions are a whole topic unto themselves. So what we're going to do today, what I really want to focus on is what you already have in your possession that's easily actionable. And you can see them listed across the screen, but it's really mind-blowing just how much data and how many sources you as a hotelier already have access to. You have reports in your PMS, your CRS, maybe your RMS, your CRM, your ORM. You have all of your OTA extranets that are just constantly rolling out analytics. And it can start to feel really overwhelming to attempt to cut through some of that clutter and all of these silos to get a really cohesive picture of what's going on at your hotel. One thing I do think is important to really emphasize is just how much of this data is accessible only to you. So regardless of where a guest books, through what channel or what site, once they enter your doors, they belong to you and your hotel. So while a major site may be able to serve up algorithm-based ads based on a browsing history or maybe outspend a bit on PPC for the really broad search terms, you know that this guest always books a certain spa service or heavily utilizes certain outlets. And you can use this to hyper-target your marketing and make it much more effective and direct to your guests. So add this to the fact that with proper case reporting that you can easily get from PMS and CRS data, you can really easily see your need periods, not just overall, but by specific segment and really even rate code. And you really do have a much more complete picture of what to target, which guests to target, and when.
Yeah, so, let's start with some definitions. We want to make sure that everyone on this webinar feels confident on the subject matter. So there are various types of data. We start with, demographic data. This is about who your customer is. How old are they? Their gender, level of education, employment and income status, and more. There's geographic data, which of course may include country, city, state, and zip code. There's conversion and reservation data related to the transaction. Was the purchase made with a certain rate code, with a coupon or voucher? Was the reservation abandoned? And so on. There's even behavioral data on what the customer does on the website. Did the person fill out a form? Visit certain web pages? Spend time on the site? How long? Are they repeat visitors? And any other interaction on the hotel website. All this information is data being captured. Another topic is that you may also have been exposed to the concept of structured data. So for purposes of this discussion, the meaning of structured versus unstructured data is based on the quality and source of the data. When a guest provides firsthand profile information like a hotel review or personal preference or completed a sign-up form or signed in for a guest reward program, then this is all firsthand provided structured data. It is the most reliable and most robust kind of data that you would want. The other is the unstructured data. So guest profile data collected by social channels or appending services like the Equifaxes of the world or other third-party sources. This is considered unstructured data. Both are of value, but also you need to take into consideration how you're building your guest profile database based on having structured and unstructured data. topic is basically, why is the hotel industry late to adopt and slow to adopt some of these concepts of data and data in general? So if leveraging data is proven to be of value, then why has the hotel industry been slow to adopt data as a form of marketing currency? Nicole?
Right, and that's a really good question. Obviously, not everyone has, and there's plenty of solutions in that space that are kind of really pushing the boundary of what you can do with your data. But I think that there is a general lack of understanding on both the meaning of data, the types of data, and what you can do with that data, and that can all be very daunting. It can also be really time-consuming to get all of this data organized in a way that's easily accessible and easy to process. And then this is where there's a number of reporting analytics tools that can come into play at a pretty reasonable cost. I mean, we're talking, maybe a few nights a month, that are certainly a very cost-effective way for hotels today to really be able to get this data to kind of crunch at their fingertips. Another reason I think that some people are kind of slow to jump into this space is the popularization of the concept of big data a few years ago, which can make the concept seem very unrelatable to, maybe to someone outside of a major operation or that has dedicated people working in data science. Because in reality, very little of what we're talking about here on this webinar is truly big data, which is really data sets that are of such size and scope that they require advanced computational analytics to analyze. I know, some hotels will use advanced RMSs or enterprise-level CRM applications, and to great effect. There are some great products. But there is plenty of potential on a smaller scale to adopt this as well and really put it to use for your property.
Yeah, that's right, Nicole. And furthermore, all these technology companies, whether they're in hospitality or not, I'm sure they're calling everyone on this webinar. So these data enablement solutions, there's no shortage of them. They just can be not only overwhelming, they can be expensive, but also many of them don't even relate to the hotel industry. The other thing is that in the past 12 months, we have seen data be redefined in the form of being corruptible, raising privacy issues, and even presented risks around stolen data. So this has all been creating concerns for the industry. We've seen new international laws, including GDPR and the Canadian anti-spam law, CASL, to name a few. There are even state-level data privacy issues. So the attention around these topics can make anyone feel overwhelmed. Nicole?
Right. So, sorry, I guess that gets us to the question of where do I begin? So, go to the next slide. Where do I begin? And like I said, there are a number of tools that you can work with, and relatively simple ones. I think Jason may want to jump in. We're kind of looking at the payoff of what happens when you do have this complete view of your guest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we all want to aim high, right? We all want to start with sort of the gold standard. So naturally, the whole point of breaking down these data silos is that we want to have a unified platform to have that 360-degree view of your guests, including your best and highest value guests. You want to be more relevant and targeted when communicating with guests online and on property. Ultimately, you want to improve your guest satisfaction, strengthen your loyalty, and be in a far better position to retain and acquire new customers from your personalized marketing efforts. So, as the two stats you see here, what is the payoff when you have a complete profile of your guest? Well, according to Adobe Digital Trends, 42% higher conversion rate with personalized calls to action than generic counterparts. And 51% of consumers say they'd buy from new brands offering more personalized experiences, which gives you a greater advantage to stealing market share.
All right, polling question number 2. How effectively are you utilizing reservation data, pace, booking windows, length of stay, etc., to consistently guide revenue strategy? Another bell curve, Mr. B?
That seems to be the statistical thing to do.
No. We have robust reporting as winning out.
I feel like my high school AP stats teacher would be disappointed in me if I didn't predict a bell curve.
Yeah, look at it, evening out.
All right, share the result. A little bit more even, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty even.
38% saying very, 38% saying somewhat. Awesome. All right.
All right, putting your data to work.
All right, so that sounds like a pretty even breakdown there, and even if I can do that quick math off the top of my head without looking at the screen, a fair amount of people that said we don't then, right, for how we're really putting your reservations data to use. And I think this is one of those topics that people, we'll always sit there, you know, I do that with hotels as well on our calls where we sit there and like, man, I wish I knew this, or I wish I could get some more insight into this. And I just want to highlight that this is all data that can be built from your reservations. If you know your book date, your check-in date, your checkout date, you already have everything you need to know or to calculate your booking window, your length of stay. There's probably a rate code attached to it, hopefully a market segment. There is a ton of data on just a single reservation that can really paint a good picture for your property. And so I just wanted to touch on 4 kind of key, easily actionable points that you can get from this reservations data. First of which is, again, your booking window. So if you have your reservation, you know when it's booked, then you already have this one key piece that you can sort and filter further if you wish. Your booking window data, it's key for both how it informs your knowledge of your booking pace and to target offers more effectively. So, for example, if you're 2 months out from a date and pacing behind, knowing the booking window of your various markets or segments will tell your team where you can still focus to make an impact and what could potentially be wasted marketing spend too. Right? If you can break those booking windows down by segment, then you can really focus for any given date in the future, what market segments, even down to the rate code, what can still convert, what's not going to convert anymore, and really make sure that you're pricing correctly and also putting the marketing into the right place. And similarly, another data point that you should carefully evaluate at a market and rate code level is your length of stay. So this really helps in competitively and effectively setting rate strategy for your different segments. And again, allows you to put your marketing efforts only where it's going to show return. Both of these 2 metrics are very useful in avoiding unnecessary discounting. For example, you may want to incentivize 4-night stays for U.S. travelers, even over a certain period. If you are really soft on Mondays, Tuesdays, but Wednesdays, Thursdays are higher, knowing which segments are traveling for those 4-night stays and when they're booking will really help you incentivize them to kind of build out that base. But on the flip side, you wouldn't want to offer a 4-night discount stay to a European travel segment that is already coming for 7. That's not a discount that you'd want to extend there. So it really helps you kind of really specifically target your discounting. When it comes to seasonality and need periods, I think we're all pretty comfortable with the concept of using marketing and promotions to address the potentially slower periods. But I just want to highlight that it's just as important to give some thought to how you'll handle the marketing for your property during compression periods and special events, because these can be really great opportunities to focus on a branding message and really differentiate your property to your guests and kind of get some marketing out there that's a lot less generic than maybe a bigger channel or bigger brand to really kind of build that relationship with your guests on the individual level. And then lastly, I want to just kind of touch on optimizing your channel profitability. So every property should map out their channel costs and have a rough calculation of what flows to the bottom line from any given booking source. Obviously, each channel will have its own margin, commission, pass-through fees, etc. And just as importantly, each segment is going to have its own average total spend. So this information is incredibly important to maximizing the bottom line. I always like to remember my properties don't get too caught up in X% commission here or whatever net ADR here, that you ignore the total amount of money being generated from your property. So consider how does the spend of a third-party package guest in your outlets and F&B compare to, say, a corporate discount that comes in with a TA commission and a channel fee. You might be surprised, and this is important information to keep in mind.
Yeah. So let's put your data to work. So let's start with the PMS. Your PMS is a great repository of data. It's already paid for. You've paid for your PMS, and it's in your possession. So while the PMS data may not provide a full 360 picture, like we described a moment ago about your full visibility of the entire guest, you can leverage good data out of this and create targeted marketing strategies around it. So step one is extract the data from the PMS on the most recent 12 months. That's what we recommend. Once the guest profile data is extracted and deduped and appended, you now have a robust starting point to build customer segments and run automated marketing campaigns. So let me share with you a couple of examples to address your business needs. So Nicole mentioned the booking pace previously. If you're not pacing well over the next, say, 2 weeks, the go-to is often to lower rates and maybe increase inventory on the online travel agencies. But what if we ran an integrated marketing campaign to past guests who stayed and parked at your hotel? So this is a very targeted messaging to a specific customer segment in one such example. You could couple this with a midweek business rate, park and stay, and only send to those who have not already booked over the next 2 weeks that are your business travelers. So you already have this data, you can put it to work. Another example is, you know that your hotel receives the most bookings on Thursdays. It would be a great idea to send any last-minute offers to your email list on a Thursday. Further, if you have a sizable list that can be segmented, start by creating 3 different core customer segments. You could create a drive-in market, you could create a fly-in market, you could create even a greater than 1 year since last booking market segment. Then sit down with the team, your marketing team, and identify an email marketing cadence on when and how often to market to each of these segments. If you want to go a step further, you can run what's called programmatic advertising in the Google Display Network, Facebook Dynamic Ads, and even with third-party programmatic buying platforms. For example, let's say you just built a guest profile list of Amex Gold Card carriers who fly business class on Delta Airlines, and they're traveling from LAX to LGA, LaGuardia. You extracted this information from the PMS. Now you can match this data with the programmatic advertisers to target similar audiences who may also be in market to make the same exact trip. Again, you're leveraging the existing data from the PMS to find similar customers. These are a couple of practical examples of what we provide today, or what is in your possession today. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see that, you know, if you want to take your data now even to a step further forward, how does the data interact with your website? So the website, you have this asset, the website. So the question is, how can you leverage data to better serve your online customers? How do you target to them while they're on your website? How do you serve the online community better from your website, your hotel website? So before we jump into the screencast, you recall we discussed various types of data, including demographic, geographic, behavioral, and transactional data. Now, what if we could capture and store all this data in a data warehouse and use this information to create automated business rule-driven marketing campaigns right on your website? So a modern quality hotel website should function as a data management platform, which will enable you, the hotel revenue and marketing managers, to truly serve far more relevant and targeted offers, imagery, promotions, and more right on your website. So whatever CMS you're using should be powered with a built-in data warehouse capability. If your CMS is an open source, then you may be out of luck. If you're using an enterprise level CMS, then certainly check with your administrator if this functionality is available. But ideally, you want the data to be talking and build your revenue and marketing strategies around it. So if we were to go into the screencast, if we log into the CMS and you can start building targeted audiences. So as you see here, our strategy in this particular case is to revisit online consumers who attempted but abandoned the reservation process. So pulling from the data warehouse, we start with demographic data, including household income. And then we want to target age range. So we put in age range, which in this case are baby boomers. And then we want to target anyone who has checked rates and availability but did not complete a booking. So I'm going to put in cart abandonment here, average cart totals, greater than 350, the value. Great, we save the selection and assign this segment to a series of marketing efforts on the website, which can include a promotion on the home page, on the offers page, identified in the upcoming calendar, and of course, springboard this to any email marketing and programmatic advertising, and you now have come full circle in leveraging your data to serve your audiences. Okay.
Oh boy, data budgeting for 2019. Everybody's favorite topic. I know we're all kind of knee deep in this very activity right now, or at least probably your revenue budgeting. So I don't want to spend too much time dissecting it. But what I want to emphasize is how important it is to take the time to consider your reservation history data really on a day-by-day and ideally segment-by-segment basis when you are setting next year's budget. I know it can be incredibly time-intensive, but there's so much value in breaking down your data to this level. It may be difficult to do depending on your current systems, but it is definitely something for which I recommend kind of seeking a solution that can get you a little bit more easily kind of functional reporting to get you this data. Because when you see your whole last year and the travel patterns laid out by segment in this way, it really gives you a better basis, one, for your expectations moving forward, as well as to help in pinpointing where you can most effectively target your marketing. So the one last thing that I always like to highlight is a lot of times if you see growth or you see a drop in production, or your pace is up or your pace is down, it's not across every single segment. And when you're only breaking your data down by total on the books and not drilling down to the segment and even the rate code, you're missing so much of a picture that's really kind of, it's right there, it's already in your data. But that's very important because, again, it can let you more specifically and effectively target your marketing. But it also then would definitely inform your rate strategy, because you may look like, the performance year over year was maybe relatively flat, even in the APR, but there can be so much more down there in the business mix once you break that down to a market code or rate code level. But it's really important to get that data broken out in that way when you're doing your budgeting and your forecasting for 2019.
Yeah, that's right. And then how would you then approach it from a marketing budget standpoint? So what is the best way forward? So what you want to do is you want to start by looking at your guest profile data and your customer segments. Look for opportunities on who, where, what, and when to market to these segments, and then build budgets around that. So, then you can more accurately present a case in the budget meetings and committees that you're going to be going through over the next month or two on where and how to invest in 2019. So do you base this on a percentage increase from last year's budget? Do you base this on a percent of total room revenue? Do you base this on specific revenue goals by season or need? The fact is, let your data provide some of the insight into how to make some of these decisions.
Okay, so some key takeaways for our audience to hopefully go forth and implement right now. The first thing that I would suggest all properties do is, and this is going to sound really basic, but run some sample reports just to see what comes out of all of your systems, your PMS, your CRS. Just kind of go poke around in the reporting menu if you haven't already, and really just kind of get a sense of what's there and what limitations it might have. So some PMSs, for instance, or any systems really, but they may limit the historical time frame or stop including data after a certain point, because it does get, it does turn into very large volumes. So you may be losing that data without even realizing it if you're not archiving it already yourself. So just kind of get in there, run reports, make sure you know what limitations you currently have, so you can, one, adjust how you are running and saving your data moving forward if you are doing it all manually, or so you can maybe explore, a solution that will start gathering this data for you and eventually will, build up into really robust reporting. Secondly, make sure, and I cannot emphasize this enough, make sure that your system setup is clean, and do this across all systems. So audit your rate codes for their, make sure there's no duplicates, that they have the proper market code assigned, the proper source code. Make sure that this matches or is mapped correctly. Definitely between your PMS and CRS, your RMS if you have one. Same with your company profiles, etc. Your life will be so much easier, and your reporting will be much more accurate and reliable if you take time to go in and clean this up. And then lastly, it really takes a little bit of time to assess how much an analysis and reporting that you can really handle on a manual level if that's where you are today. There, again, are cost-effective ways to get some more in-depth reporting that don't require going for a full-blown automated system. You know, there's a lot in the middle there, very effective tools. And the benefits of being able to quickly pull your PACE data and drill down to these different segments is enormous.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, listen, we were talking about crossing various disciplines, from revenue management to your sales and marketing teams and so on, and there's a lot of sources to pull from. But at the end of the day, whether individually or you're working with a trusted partner in the industry, everyone on this call needs to be thinking about moving towards a more data-driven marketing strategy and formulating tactics around that so that we're best spending our precious marketing dollars in the smartest ways possible. Okay, questions?
All right, let's see if we've got some questions.
Give you a little time to submit questions if you haven't already done so. Be sure and go check out HEBS' website, learn more about what they do, HEBSdigital.com, as well as SHR's, our own, shr.global, and check us out. So, questions. Question number 1. Do the strategies covered today apply to independent hotels? That's my fault. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll address that first. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the whole thrust of this webinar, was to really look at, individual properties that perhaps don't have a sophisticated tech stack or don't have the internal resources to make, larger investments in some of these technology enablements and CRM platforms. So what we're trying to stress is that a lot of this is well within your reach and ideal for a single property. I mean, in many respects, the whole focus of this is that the single property, you're an island on your own, and here's an opportunity where you have resources and assets within your reach, and you can start, basically putting together data-driven marketing revenue strategies around what's already in your possession. So the answer is yes. It applies to both multi and single properties, but and I see this as a great opportunity for any independent property that's looking to start moving their marketing strategy forward in a more data-driven way.
Right, and I'll just echo and support what Jason said. The revenue management team, we do primarily work with independent single property operations, and we understand the frustration sometimes in approaching marketing and just really what you're doing in that arena when you're up against these huge marketing budgets and spends of either the brands or different OTAs. So yes, this is all just geared towards really highlighting, even as a single operating property, just how much information you have that can let you really effectively and kind of target market your property.
Very good. All right, question number 2. It's another interesting one. Is there such a thing as too much data?
So I'll field that one first. I'm going to say yes, because any data that is overwhelming or that you cannot get into an actionable report or something that you can analyze is too much data, and it does you no good. So again, I want to emphasize, there are tools that can help you kind of wrangle your data and get it organized to the point where you can easily analyze it. But absolutely, yeah, and it's flying at you from all sides constantly right now. So I'm really kind of drilling down to the important stuff from your reservations and for your guest data is really, really where you need to focus and just kind of ignore the chatter out there behind it.
I would add that there is a concept called data overload, and it can be overwhelming. But that, if you reach a point where you're facing that situation, that's where it would make sense to then invest up into like a Serenata CRM platform, like an Oracle or Microsoft Dynamics capability or Clairvoyance kind of platform, where you're now integrating and housing on an online platform, integrating with your PMS, your POS, your spa, your golf, all the different ancillary businesses. So you're truly getting that true 360 profile data. But again, this is where, if you're hitting the point of data overload, that's where it would make sense to have, you know, these kinds of investments to help sort out and make more sense. Many of these technologies, they have visualizing tools and ability to segment more in a visual manner and drag and drop with business intelligence capabilities. Far more sophisticated. They tend to cost a bit more, but they're certainly an effective platform to provide that guest communication capabilities and give you that 360 view of the customer. Again, that's only when you're facing that level of data overload.
All right. Well, that are all the questions that we have. If you've got a question, you want to send it in real quick. Meanwhile, I want to thank Nicole and Jason for spending their time with us. Here's their contact info. If you want to reach out, ask them a question on the side. That's perfectly fine. I want to thank you both.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, we'll end it there. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Sure.